9:07, 9:07.
John Cass, Jake Hartford in for Bruce and Dan on 89 WLS.
Good Monday morning.
What a Monday.
It's gorgeous. The sun is shining. The birds are singing.
The people are holding hands and dancing in the streets.
Wow.
They're
Anyway,
just happy to be here.
We are here for Bruce and Dan, who are in for Don and Roma, and will be for the next foreseeable future as Don recovers, as he starts undergoing treatment this week after his surgery a few weeks ago. And again, if you wish to send Don a get well wish, you can, and they really enjoy it. It helps their spirits, and I know there's been a whole flood of them sent initially, but now's the time after the initial wave kind of goes down to get some more in there, because when you're undergoing stuff like he's undergoing, it helps to know people care about you.
Yes, it does.
It brightens. If people I've talked to that have gone through this, they've told me, yep, it's helped them. So it's getwelldone@gmail.com, or go to the website, WLSAM.com, and you go from there.
We hope you do it.
Anyway, somebody who's hoping somebody doesn't do it is Jesse Jackson Jr., hoping he doesn't get indicted before the election in November. And having read the stories, Wall Street Journal has a story today, and there was one over the weekend. It has to do with his finances, not here in Chicago, and nothing to do with the selling of the Senate seat.
Or his friend Raghuveer Nayak,
yes,
who was supposed to come up with, what was it, $1 million or so?
Nothing to do with
Something
that,
like that.
But supposedly it has to do with his campaign fund, misuse of the campaign fund to redecorate his home in D.C., and this investigation is not being done, according to the reports, by the Chicago office of the FBI and the U.S. Attorney, but rather by the Washington, D.C. office. It's a whole separate investigation.
And I wonder how many thousands of dollars did he spend on those Star Wars action figures that decorate his house?
Here's the question I have. What is the real story? What is really going on for the feds to go after him like this? There's got to be more to it than, he took his campaign funds and redecorated the house, because, they can make that stuff go away. They can settle and say, okay, he pays it back. Things are fine.
I still think that there's something to do with the Chicago deal, because remember the bikini model, the blonde that she was famously in a famous picture in a bikini at an aquarium with a porpoise right behind her. Remember, through the glass, looking at her
porpoise,
at her bottom part. And I thought that was probably one of the greatest political photographs of the year. And she received airplane tickets, right, through this Nayak fellow. And I still think that there's something there.
But if that
I know what they're saying, it doesn't have anything to do, but
if that were the case, it would be investigated out of the Chicago office. It wouldn't be D.C.
Who's the boss of...
All right, here's the question. Do we have the tape from 4 years ago? Jesse Sr.? Listen, remember this tape when he was going to appear on a cable show, and he thought he was off mic, he wasn't on air, and the tape caught him saying this about Obama?
Sit the rock and talking down to black people on those faith-based the rock talking down to black people.
He wanted to cut a piece of the president's anatomy off before the president became the president.
Wrong. It wasn't a piece, it was two pieces. They come in pairs.
Okay.
And then on CNN, right, the next day when it became a story, Wolf Blitzer, can I do a Wolf Blitzer? Male private parts, the suggestion really was castration, if you will. That was Wolf Blitzer yelling that.
So the question I have was, there seemed to have been some disagreement between Reverend Jackson and Barack Obama back then. Is there a grudge that perhaps the president still holds to this day? Because the way Chicago works, and the president came from Chicago, unless the guys in Chicago want to get rid of Jesse Jr., and that's why the president's taken the marching orders from the people in Chicago. They redistricted the seat to include Kankakee. It made it difficult for him to get reelected.
He's still going to get reelected.
And now they're pushing this, and his attorneys asked the Justice Department to hold off on an indictment until after the election, and they says no, they're not going to do that. And the election's only 3 weeks away.
Right.
Now, if Obama really was okay with Reverend Jackson, you would think he would mention something to Eric Holder, who's the Attorney General. They can stall it. They can do whatever they want. If they wanted to help Jesse Jr., apparently they don't want to help Jesse Jr. In fact, it looks like they want to go the other way. They want to get Jesse Jr. And my question is, does this have something going back 4 years to the father? Are they trying to get to the father?
With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. Okay? Because if they wanted to really hurt Jesse Jr., they would have indicted him weeks ago or months ago, since they had this information. Whether it's indictable or not, we'll leave that up to 12 or 24 good people, good and true. But they had the information back then. Remember when there was speculation that he was suffering from nyacitis or phthisitis, right? Remember? And then all of a sudden he gets sick,
then
and
why
then he
is this
disappears.
Then why is this out now, 3 weeks before the election? This leak out of D.C. Who leaked this out of D.C.? Somebody
I can't
did.
believe you would politicize such a thing.
I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm asking the question.
And I don't know who would.
If the president really still had respect and he was an ally of Reverend Jackson, I would think he'd be livid this morning saying, who leaked this? Find out. He'd go to Eric Holder and say, find out who leaked this. I want them gone. If that was still that close to Reverend Jackson. Because this is not only embarrassing to Reverend Jackson, it's not good for Jesse Jr. either, especially if he ends up going to jail for this.
He might be. There's two. If he's indicted, then there'll be two Democrats under indictment who will probably get elected. Him and who's that fellow? Leave it in the envelope, Smith on the West Side.
Indictment is not an indication of guilt.
No.
It's just an accusation.
But in Chicago, if you're indicted and you're a Democrat, I guess that means you're going to be reelected. If you're indicted on a criminal charge.
I'm just asking the question. It just seems very strange that they would go after him. If this were a Republican, I'd understand that.
But a Democrat?
But a Democrat. A Jesse Jr. doesn't make sense. Over some, money spent on decorating a house?
Like I said, there's a lot of money in those Star Wars figures, my friend.
9:15, we'll get back to your calls. 591-8900. John Cass, Jake Hartford in for Bruce and Dan. Time for 89 WLS traffic. 9:16, John Cass, Jake Hartford in for Bruce and Dan. Let's get to some calls. John, Greg in a car, good morning. You're on 89 WLS.
Good morning, guys. This is just another perfect example of why 7 million people in the state of Illinois want Cook County and Chicago to secede from Illinois and form their own state. These people who would vote for Jesse Jackson and this other guy, this guy under an indictment, state senator from Illinois.
Leave it in the envelope, Smith, as we call him.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
This just shows the ignorance and the contempt of the people that live in these districts for the good people of Illinois. And I'm going to give you another prediction, which is sickening. There's 102 counties in Illinois. Mitt Romney will win 101 counties and still lose the state of Illinois because of Crook County. And the people of this good state don't deserve this.
Well, but you're talking about the people in the rest of the state outside of Cook County, but the people in Cook County would claim, you know what, they're entitled to representation as much as you are, right?
But everybody, the 95% of the people in this state realize that Cook County in Chicago is the most corrupt county, the most corrupt city on the planet Earth. And we don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah, but Greg, even crooks need representation.
Yeah, what about the poor crooks? Don't they need to be? Don't they need a voice in Washington and in Springfield? I mean, just think of it, how stressful it is just to have a job in the first place. If you're a scam artist, a T&D guy, anybody, don't you want a voice in your government?
I know you guys are being facetious, and that's fine.
No.
All I'm telling you is that it is absolutely pathetic on November 7th or November 6th when Mitt Romney will win 101 counties in this state and still lose the state of Illinois because of Crook County. It's just pathetic, and it makes me want to puke.
Thank you, Greg.
You know, I would like to...
I'd love to take the bet on the 101, but I can't.
I would like to remind people that we don't really call it Illinois anymore because that name has been changed. It is now Madaganistan. This is the windswept plain of Madaganistan, and the lord of it is House Speaker Mike Madigan, who is the boss of the Democrats, and his puppet is Joe Barrios, the county assessor of Cook. And I would like both of them, Mike, Joe, come on, call in 591-8900. And let's talk about Jesse Jackson and where he stands.
You know, this morning they're talking about if Jackson gets off the ballot, that Joe Barrios would be the replacement picked by the party.
That he would pick the replacement.
No, it would be Barrios. That's the name that's been thrown out there.
No, Barrios would pick the replacement. I think that the county assessor's office is more important to Madigan than a congressman with Star Wars collections in Washington. And by the way, if the house was redecorated, isn't Sandy Jackson, doesn't she live there? She lives in that house.
Yes, she does.
Sandy, 591-8900, please call in.
Joe in Bolingbrook. Good morning, Joe. Welcome to 89 WLS.
Thanks, guys. Question. If the president was out to get him, why didn't he let the bidding on the Senate seat go farther and then drag Jackson into the mix?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Maybe Pat Fitzgerald wouldn't go along with that.
Oh, and maybe the president didn't even know about it. Didn't even know about the investigation with Blago, and somebody had to save his butt along with Rahm and Madigan and the whole bunch, because I think if they would let that thing go, there would have been a bidding war and they could all went to jail.
One thing we know from the discussion right after the indictment of Rod Blagojevich was that Pat Fitzgerald, this former prosecutor, said if he had to act, because if the congressman had bought the seat, for example, if that was never really alleged, but if that was a case, how would you get him out? Look at what the problem is now with this investigation, and look at how he sits there. He doesn't even come out. He doesn't campaign. It's arrogance. It's I'm going to get elected anyway. Imagine if he was in the United States Senate. Then you would have race card. You would have they're against me because I'm black. You would have had all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, you know what? Just because somebody's not campaigning, because number one, he is recovering from his illness. But number two, just because they don't campaign doesn't mean there's a problem. Dan Lipinski is going to be my congressman, it looks like.
Mine too.
Because they've moved him out to where I live. I haven't seen him. Doesn't mean he's doing something wrong. He just doesn't like to get out.
No, he was out the other day. I think he was out on Sunday campaigning and elsewhere.
You know what? We have a nice warm cup of coffee we keep hot on our front porch for when he comes out to the neighborhood forum, and we change it every day. It's still there. 9:21, back after this.
89 WLS. 89 WLS is breaking news, comprehensive coverage, and revealing insight. Chicago's talk leader, 89 WLS.
9:28, John Cass, Jake Hartford, in for Bruce and Dan, talking about Reverend Jackson's one son, Jesse Jr., who may be indicted before the election.
And his wife, who basically thinks reporters are a bunch of jackals.
She took that back.
Did she?
You won't let that go, will you?
I will not.
Bill in the car. Good morning, Bill. You're on 89 WLS.
Yeah, this is eerily similar to the John Stroger Sr. of a few years ago when he, it was a different set of circumstances that led up to this, but it's the same result. There are people, they think that they need to hold on to the seat, so this is how we're going to do it. My theory is because we did not see John Stroger. I thought he was dead from the day he had the stroke. Second of all, Jesse Jr., we haven't seen him. These are the professionals that are in office at the national level now of, the Chicago people. So, who's just didn't work on a national scale. That's why I do not think Barack Obama will win re-election. But those are just some theories that I had.
Thank you, Bill. Now, would they have been questioned by the FBI? Wouldn't they have had to see Jesse Jr.?
Why?
To ask him what happened?
They might have, or they might be talking to other people. I mean, it's simple. How much did you spend? Where did you get the money? There's a paper trail of the money, and that's an issue.
I think they'd want an explanation so they'd actually talk to you.
I think maybe they will, but I think when they talk to you, they already know the answers to the questions.
When we come back, we're going to talk about, that big 75-year parking deal. Well, the mayor may announce a deal at the end of 75 years where for one day you're going to get a free day of parking or something. I don't know. We're going to talk about that. It's 9:30.
A bag full of quarters.
Yeah, 9:30. We'll be back with more as we continue here. Dave Stewart standing by when news, weather, traffic on 89 WLS. It's 9:30.